Welcome to the Recycle Podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts, Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
Dr. LaFanya Jones-Hines,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is informative, down to earth, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up your volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 44, Movie Mental Breakdown. Why Did I Get Married? 2007. And Why Did I Get Married to 2010?
Ooh.
Two movies.
Yeah, y'all ready for that? Because they're going to be like, what? This is going to be like a 5-hour movie.
I know.
No, it ain't.
Don't know why they got time for that.
No, Lord. You know, as much as I enjoy the movie breakdown, I don't know if I would enjoy doing 5 hours worth of one.
Being here by yourselves.
Okay.
Okay.
Like Dr. Wall said, we're doing the breakdown this month for Why Did I Get Married 1 and 2. These are starring, of course, Tyler Perry, because you know he got to be in his own movies. But I love to get you make your bag and get it. So this is starring Tyler Perry as Terry. Janet Jackson is Patricia / Dr. Agnew. Tasha Smith plays Angela. Sharon Leal plays Diane. Jill Scott plays Sheila. Michael Jai White plays Marcus. Malik Yoba. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's his
That's
name.
it. My head was getting ready to like combine his first and last name. Malik Yoba plays Gavin. I could not remember her husband's name. Sorry. Richard T. Jones plays
Mike.
Mike.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how to say it. I don't know if this is Lamman. It's Lamman.
Mm-hmm.
Lamman Rucker, who I usually call Groove Theory. He plays Troy. And then we have some kind of extra individuals in there as well. But, you know, since they were not mains, you know, we would just kind of call them by character as, you know, they come up in discussion. So this breakdown is going to be a little bit different, you guys. Normally, we kind of do a scene-by-scene breakdown of the movies and, you know, kind of what has taken place. But because we are doing two simultaneously, and the point is that these two movies flow together, it's not really, you know, feasible for us to be able to break down scene by scene. So what we're going to do this go-round is actually look at each couple, the issues surrounding that couple, and kind of the progression for them between movie 1 and movie 2. Mm-hmm. And then we will move on to the next set of individuals. This is not to mean that we won't say the names of other characters while we're talking about that specific couple set, because of course this is a friend group, so there's going to be interaction between all of them. But we will let you guys know, like, we're transitioning from talking about the Patricia Gavin relationship to the Terry Diane relationship, and so on and so forth. So we just wanted to kind of give y'all a preface that this one's not going to look the same way, and then we can give some overall thoughts towards the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to start with Patricia Gavin. Who y'all feel like y'all want to get into?
Yeah, let's start with
the
them.
Perfect couple.
I know.
Yeah.
That ain't perfect.
You know, I was telling Dr. Jones-Hines this morning that when I was doing my notes for them, I didn't really have a whole lot for them in the beginning.
No.
Me neither.
And I was like, I'm starting to feel some kind of way because I don't have a whole lot written down for them. And it wasn't until the second movie kind of came out until I watched the second movie that I was like, okay, there's a little bit more meat.
What's done in the dark comes to the light. I mean, that's prevalent throughout this movie, but I honestly feel like this couple was like the embodiment of that. And then it also, this couple held me accountable, and I know y'all probably feel the same way since we're in the same field as
Dr.
Patty. No pie, but you know, her ability to avoid dealing with stuff because she's fixing everybody else's stuff.
Oh, for sure. She was like that old saying that those that can't do teach. You know, like the lack of, I don't even know if it was a lack of self-awareness or a lack of introspection, you know, because, you know, there's not a lot of backstory to, you know, kind of what happened with them and them losing, you know, we know that their son died and kind of how, but, you know, there's no, like, did she go to therapy? There's no, like, how did the two of them?
You know, she didn't go to no therapy.
Well, that's why I say those that can't do teach.
You know, and I think I would add on to that too, is if she had space to do it, if she had space to be able to talk about, well, be vulnerable, because she was so busy fixing everybody else. When you're so busy fixing everybody else in your life, you don't feel like you really can be vulnerable, because it's like, you going through your own stuff. So how can I?
It was hard for me to watch her because I felt like she was one of the only characters that solely sabotaged herself without help from anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, it was a moment in there where Gavin lost his dang mind, but I was like,
yeah,
don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when she, I mean, I know I'm jumping to the second movie, but when she announced that they were divorcing,
he was like,
he
what?
was surprised. Like,
It was
so
like,
you didn't
we
even
ain't even discuss this
right
fully.
That you could definitely tell that was his reaction. Like, wait, what?
He's like, I'm hearing it for the first time
Myself,
like
exactly.
Yeah, and you could always see that he supported her.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, maybe that was the problem. Maybe she didn't feel worthy of his level of love.
Because he did mention in the film, you know, I've been waiting 14 years
for you to love me.
I said, oh,
That hurt my heart right there. I was like,
Malik!
I was like, dang, Janet Jackson, if you're nasty, you didn't do that with him.
Yeah.
I was so... If y'all don't know, there was this other show that he used to be on where he was a police officer.
New York Undercover.
Yes.
Undercover.
And
I
all them feels
loved him.
came back when he
Yes.
lost the woman. I said, oh, it's happening again. Just in a different way.
Yes. You know, and I agree with you ladies. It was just very difficult to watch this couple specifically in the second film.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily so much in the first film because the first one was really kind of focused on
They were faking it.
Well, really, it was really focused on two sets of the other couples we're going to talk about a little bit later.
And it was more nuanced. It wasn't like glaring.
I did start realizing, well, obviously I realized it this time because I had already seen the movie, but I realized he started showing some idea that they were having problems in the first movie during certain times.
He showed it in the first scene. When she avoided the question of what, I can't remember specifically what it was, but she was given a seminar at the college that she taught for.
Yes.
And the lady was like, well, how are you and your husband doing?
And we're late for our flight.
And she said, well, ask him because, he was there.
And he was like, first of
Well,
all,
we
how you
gonna-
gonna put me on spot? And
Right.
then,
We're going to be late for our flight.
yeah, because I was like, ma'am, these are your students. Go ahead and just answer the question if you're allowing them to ask intimate. Well, you've obviously done cardinal rule number 1, don't assess your people. But, that's a whole nother set of issues, these dual relationships and things.
I know, because one, you also wrote an entire book or had a case study based off your friends.
Which she did say she had permission, which is cool. But I mean, she towing a line that I'm not willing to risk my license for or my education.
Right.
And that's what I was thinking. I was like, that's really skating
Yeah.
very thin.
It's a little Freudian.
Like you're going to have a really good lawyer to spin it real good if they were to sue you or something.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we should kind of tell them who these people are. Like kind of give a little synopsis of Gavin and Patricia. Like,
Okay.
Sure.
Well, I think first the whole friend group, they all went to an HBCU. They didn't say which HBCU, but they all went to school together, and they kind of coupled up into these different couples and all of that good stuff. But specifically Gavin and Patricia. Gavin is a up and coming architect. They got monies. They appear to have like a really great relationship. They communicate well with what we see. Patricia is a renowned psychologist and does all these case studies and has all these books, and they just look like a great power couple on the outside.
On the outside, this is, what people nowadays call couple goals, but proof positive that all that glitters ain't gold, that fool's gold exists. And, perfectionism is, again, we've said this in plenty of sessions. It is an illusion.
Yeah.
And her subsequent breakdown, throughout the second movie is evidence of that.
Yeah.
That you can only keep that facade up for so long. And, once that pressure builds up and that trying to keep that image of the strong one, the supportive one, the one that's got it together, the one that's
that has
successful.
all the answers.
Yes. Once that comes down, you can turn into a completely different person.
The one thing about their relationship with the friends is like the friends realized that they were flawed, even though they leaned on them. They never, at least that's what I got. They never expected them to be perfect, but they were the example. Yeah. And they often offered to be there for them, and really only Gavin, utilized it. Patty was like, I'm not talking to nobody, not even myself.
No, she was perfect Patty.
Yeah, which makes me wonder kind of how her friends accepted that. If they are extending the offer to be there, be supportive, and, be for her what she is for them, why they continue to be like, okay with that.
I don't think she allowed them to see that she was really tore up until they saw it later. And they made some mention of how Patty had went off one time in college, and that was the worst they had ever seen, which I can tell. But
until this time.
Yeah. And so I think it's like, you don't want to be a burden. I don't think
she let them see that side of her. Because again, I think what you were going to say, she didn't want to be a burden to friends who she was already trying to help.
Yeah, which makes absolutely no sense. When y'all choose to do life with each other, y'all are supposed to do life with each other, not just the good times.
Right. Well, that's kind of the point I'm making, that even though she worked hard to not show them that, she was struggling or whatnot, your friends are your friends. So they're still going to check in on you. They're still going to ask you how you're doing, but you're actively choosing not to engage with them in that way.
But see, I think that's one of those things where she didn't know how to take her therapist hat off. And it always put her at a level above them because she had the answers. Right. Exactly.
But if she would have said, I'm fine one more time, I was like, Janet,
you're not.
I'm going to smack you off the screen. I can't take no more I'm fine.
Yeah, because especially when they were in the Colorado. Was it Colorado?
They were in Colorado.
They were in the Colorado cabin, and they were arguing, and Terry and Diane heard them, and she was like, because they thought it was Marcus and Angela.
Oh, that was the Bahamas.
Oh, so that was the second one. Okay.
So when she was walking downstairs.
Yeah, and and Diane was like, "Are you?" She was trying to be there for her.
Yeah,
and like you said, she kept saying, "I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine." I'm like, "Ma'am, you're not fine." That's why. That's why I don't allow my clients to tell me they fine.
Oh no, there's too afraid. I don't know, and I'm.
Yeah.
No, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
I don't think they realized how much they had their friends walking on eggshells. They couldn't talk about the baby. They couldn't ask questions.
Yeah.
They didn't really allow their friends to love them fully, although they loved them, but it wasn't, they couldn't be involved in the ugly stuff.
Yeah. Well, like you were saying, doing life, it almost, from an outsider perspective, it's like the the friend group viewed them as they all are best friends, and we all have this sisterhood, brotherhood. But when you look at them in behavior, it's almost like we're acquaintance.
And they had them on a pedestal.
Oh, for sure. Because I believe Angela said at one point that they were the image. They were the thing to aspire to.
Yeah.
Which, check yourself on that if you're trying to aspire to somebody else's relationship.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Because, there's nothing wrong with utilizing them as an example, but you still need to make it be your version of a relationship, because no two couples are alike at all.
And you don't know what's going on behind closed doors, as they completely saw. And even with, you were saying that they couldn't talk about a lot of the topics that was going on in their life. Gavin couldn't either. Because even when now this was in the Colorado cabin, when they were talking about the him wanting another baby.
Yeah.
Girl, that scene, I don't know if y'all caught it, but when he was bringing that up and it was kind of said, y'all better have pillow talk time, come on now. But he literally said, she changed the subject after
saying how much I love you,
but
or him.
Yeah, and she said all the words and all the blah blah blah. But if you listen to him closely, he says that's just a lot of words, but you're not really saying nothing.
Oh yeah.
I said Kevin was dropping gems.
He was.
The whole movie. He the one wrote the book.
He did. Speaking of that, he did drop a lot of bombs throughout on everybody. Really,
I feel like he kept, and I don't think she realized this until later. Kept her together, and they technically had formed a dual relationship. She was codependent, and he was just, like he said, sitting up there waiting. I said, "Oh, Gavin."
I mean, which is codependent in itself as well.
Yeah, I said, "How you gonna be a battered man?" It was, ooh,
yeah,
wow.
And I think this goes to show kind of how societally we do not focus on the emotions of men.
Yep,
and how men can feel neglected, overlooked, and kind of pushed aside in a relationship because we kind of stereotypically attribute those feelings to women. And he was a testament to wanting and desiring inclusion in his partner's life, and this person being there in physical form, but that's it.
Gone in every
and he
other.
also right. And he also seemed like he wanted them to be able to grieve together, because I think he realized that she had not grieved. Like he hadn't seen her do anything as far as trying to still get through it, or and just the mere fact that he still look at his son's picture and start just crying and having some sort of emotional representation of grieving, and trying to get her to join in with him, and even saying when she actually did break down, he was like, well, let me grieve for you, let me hurt for you. Like he was trying to bring her in.
I can honestly say for this couple, I can see a lot of his effort and where she really missed the mark, because in real situation, you don't typically see this skewed of a dynamic. It normally is more both of them is doing crazy stuff together,
more nuanced.
But this one was really, he was really trying.
Yeah. He was being what people would, say is a good dude.
Yeah. I mean, because he had that shivery down, because when she got that award, and he went up there and got, I was like, come on, a chivalry.
And he was emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
He was intellectual. He looked like he can do some other things. And he enjoyed doing the other things. But he was selfless, but probably too much.
Yeah, I talk with my couple sometimes about, and I've said this before, that there's three people in a relationship. There's you, the relationship, and the other person. And one of the things we talk about is sometimes you can do things that are in spite of the relationship. in the purposes of self-preservation. So because that need or this situation works for me, but it doesn't work for the third person between the two of us, which is the relationship. So then that thing starts to falter because now I am elevating the me over the we. And, you know, it's sometimes really insidious. It's not these like big glaring situations, you know, like kind of in this situation. But there's these little ways that we do it. You know, sometimes it's, you know, taking longer to do something, or, you know, your passive refusal. So you're not actively telling me no, but I've also asked you to do something, you know, 15 times and you still haven't done it. So sometimes, you know, our own self-interest spike the relationship. And I kind of see that with her and him, that her own interest in preserving her sanity ultimately led to the final nail in the coffin in their relationship. Because it sounds like, you know, if he's been waiting 14 years, there's only telling what has, you know, kind of transpired over that 14-year period. Or how, but we also don't know how long ago the son died.
It looks like it couldn't have been too long, because the friend's response, like the one that keeps popping up in my head, is when Diane and then we're in the store. And so it still seems like it's fresh enough to where they're like,
it's still touchy.
Yeah.
I wish there were some like additional kind of nuggets of information, because is it 1 year, is it 2 years, is it 5 years? You know, some of that contextual information can be helpful. Or was it in year 2 of their relationship? You know, and they just have been tap dancing around this for 12 years. You know what I'm saying? So context does matter a little bit in this situation.
Well, I think her ending or trying to end their marriage is a prime example of self-sabotage, when you experience guilt and shame. Like, because you could tell she blamed she said it, she blamed herself for the accident, for not strapping the baby in. And so I wonder, like you were saying earlier, Dr. Wall, like, did she begin to see herself as not worthy enough because she made that mistake? Perfect Patty made a mistake.
And you know, that whole grief cycle ain't no joke, and then you don't ever deal with your grief. I mean, even when they go into, like, when he was grieving and he had the pictures out, and he was telling her, just look at it, while she was cutting that asparagus like that.
I know, I was like,
man, she gonna cut her finger.
Yeah, I was like,
who cuts asparagus like this? But clearly she was emotional.
She was. So we chicken or steak, you know. But when that scene was going on, you're looking at them, like, you're looking at the spiral take place and her fight the spiral. When, I don't remember which session we had, and I said, you know, sometimes you need to allow yourself to fall apart to be able to be put back together correctly. And she is unwilling to do that. And at the end of the day, he was like, I done seen all your ugly. I'm good with your ugly if you would allow me to be there. I don't want to be for the dysfunctional part of it, but I'm good with your ugly. But it was interesting that she could go back and, you know, play through what happened with the baby. And she's like, I know I did strap him in. And I was like, people don't realize, like, in accidents like this, if the impact is strong enough, it doesn't matter if you strap somebody in. You know, their body is leaving the car. One of my brother's, like, closest friends that he played baseball with, but he was a smaller guy, same thing. He had his seatbelt on, everything, and he
was still ejected.
He ejected. You know, and that's horrible, but at the same time, you got to process this stuff, or it stays with you. And this is not a situation that needs to stay with you. The memory of your baby, of course, needs to stay with you, but not the trauma of it.
And that's an example of when you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable. When you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable, you won't let positive or negative in. So if she couldn't allow herself to feel the hurt, she definitely would not be allowing Gavin to love her.
Building them walls.
Yeah, vulnerability is essential in that kind of situation. But you know, a lot of things that we tell people about how to behave, especially Black women. You know, we still kind of goes back to that trope tripping one, you know, that strong Black woman. On top of that, you know, she's a psychologist and, you know, you're a doctor and all of the expectations that come along with, you know, and we know this just being in the field, you know, what people... Like, I have to tell my clients, like, I'm a human being.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are going to be times where I may say something to you that you may be offended by, you may be upset by. But you have to understand that I'm a human being. It doesn't matter how much education I have in a particular area. The human part of me is always going to come first.
Child, I tell my clients all the time, I'm going to piss you off. I already know that.
But I think this is also part of that vulnerability that, you know, when you are in this field, you know, I was thinking about this really heavy about a week and a half ago, that mental health professionals, and I would even say healthcare to some extent as well, but since we're in mental health, I'm gonna focus there. We are not given the space to have mental health problems.
Right.
We are not given the space to be flawed, which completely, you know, explains a lot of the stuff that we've been saying here, because people believe, well, you know, the tools, you know what to do, you know, you learned this, and expect you to just kind of self-heal.
Or if you do decide to be vulnerable, then it's said, I knew you weren't like, instead of you comforting me and supporting me, it's I knew you weren't perfect.
But who puts together the expert? I tell people all the time, I can't be the expert on everything. I'm not supposed to Freud myself.
Okay.
Be out here snorting lines and stuff, you know. I'm not supposed to do that. But you know, you need, we've talked about this time and time again, you need your tribe, you need the people around you, and you need to be able to do real life stuff with them. I almost cuss y'all. I was like, let me pull that back. This is not that. This is not this broad. Bring it back. But you really do need to be able to do that. You know, I know us personally, we've all gone through many things since the practice has opened, and if we weren't really being real, them cry sessions, them whatever sessions we done had in the dark corners together, this practice wouldn't have survived.
Right? No, you're right, and that's why we have to have selective people that we can go to as mental health providers, because like you were saying, Dr. Strickland, many people perceive us as thinking we are perfect, and we're not. But you perceive it, so that's the idea you have of me in your head.
And then if I already struggle with self-image issues, then like maybe Patricia did, I'm going to try to feed into that idea that you have. So then I will behave in a way that suggests that, I may be perfect.
Right.
I agree.
Which in reality, we know
that's not possible.
Ain't nobody.
No.
Yeah. That's a lot. But I will say, the glaring thing with Gavin was, when things got really bad, he really didn't have anybody to lean on, the person that he really could have trusted being Patty, and then everybody else's stuff happened at the same time. So unfortunately, you know, he turned to drinking and completely overreacted, and, you know, was emotionally and physically abusive, you know, towards Patty, and trying to force her to be open and be vulnerable. Of course, that still didn't work. But that was hard to watch.
I mean, this is kind of what a psychotic break looks like. Almost.
I was just getting ready to say, it may have been overreactive, but he needed to explode.
He did.
And I'm not saying he needed to explode on her, because that's not an excuse, but he needed all that pent up energy to go somewhere.
He didn't have no safe place.
Right.
Yeah, it's they both had, you know, what we call socially a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, both of them.
You know, I don't know if I would go as far to say they had psychotic breaks, but they definitely had mental breaks.
Yeah.
You know, and she had a couple actually.
She did. You know, in that grouping of scenes, like what I wrote down, and y'all excuse my language. I'm about to have my first cuss word on the thing.
But I wish we had symbols and like all kinds of twinkle twinkle noises.
Exactly. But I was like, in her defense, she was saying a lot of good stuff when she was trying to tell him, you know, just calm down or just do this or just let it go or whatever. But she said a lot of good stuff, but it was wrapped in shit. Because I was like, you're not taking your own advice.
Right.
No.
Like, all of this could have been avoided.
Y'all both could have, honestly, before he even got to the abusive part, and I know he was a little tipsy or whatever already, but if they would have took the time to purge in that moment, maybe they could have. I mean, he may have needed to do it again the next day after he sobered up, but I'm just, if they both could have purged in the moment, because they were both hurting and it was obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, this is when you lean in.
Right.
Ooh, that's an important
And she was
step.
still trying to be in control, which, ma'am, you can let that go. That's gone.
Yeah. And in all honesty, she probably would have continued that if he had not burned the baby pictures. She would have continued. Like, she had to have that big of a response and show that she still loves her child and show that she's still affected, because those were the only pictures left.
Yeah. And the thing is, she must have changed so much, because he said, what happened to you? And so, like you were saying earlier, Dr. Strickland, I wonder, like, when did that change happen? Like, did it happen after the baby was died in the car accident, or did it happen after college? Like, what happened to you?
I feel like it probably was after the baby died, but it's so gradual because she pushes everything off. She just crawled up inside herself and died.
Man,
and nobody knew.
No. Yeah, that is a lot of mental work. You know, you got to appreciate, even though it's unhealthy, but you do have to appreciate the amount of mental work that takes to be able to, your child died and you were just out here stuffing, Doc McStuffins, like you stuff, and to the point to where it's almost like it's a foreign body. Like, it doesn't really exist in a real kind of way.
Dissociation type of.
That's
yes. Yeah.
That's why she had that break. She done separated herself from herself, and you can't exist in two places like that.
Yeah.
No.
It's a splinter. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, it was just, while I do think that it was a lot of over the top stuff, you know, but I think you needed it to be over the top to kind of be able to, especially for something like what we're doing, to be able to break it down, things like that. It needed to be that, like,
because jarring for people like us breaking it down. We needed to show you all how, when you're not dealing with your stuff, it don't matter what it is, if it's cheating, if it's grieving, if it's just depression, if it's when I say just depression, I'm not minimizing it, but if it's depression, if it's anxiety, whatever it is, if you're not dealing with your stuff, you can that can be you,
or probably already is, and you just don't know it yet.
And let me tell you, because of the stuff that's going on in the world, if you don't have a safe place to talk about this stuff, that is probably already you, like Dr. Strickland said, or it's gonna be you. The next shooting is gonna be you. So you have, if that, you definitely, people now need to have a therapist on speed dial.
Agreed. Use your resources. Stop avoiding them. Yeah, that was a lot. The other part of their relationship that stands out to me, or other two parts, is when he threw that ficus through that glass door,
girl,
and then the divorce hearing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The divorce, I was like, man, y'all was doing so good.
Well,
at first. Well,
she was doing so good because that man looked like,
well, not emotionally, but they were like at least cordial. Yeah,
yes,
they were negotiating well.
Yeah, we were talking about it. Dr. Jones Hines and I were talking about that this morning. I was like, I didn't understand her unwillingness to share in the profits of the book. Now, whether it needed to be 50-50, I think that's kind of up for debate.
Yeah.
Because I was saying you wrote a book based off the life of your friend. So you wrote a book based off of him, partially, not in whole, but he is partially why your success in this area even exists. And it makes me think about, I don't remember who said this. I don't know if it was, let me not even say, because I don't remember who said it. I know it had something to do with sports, but they were saying like about women getting child support and stuff, like spousal support. Like you weren't in the gym shooting with me. So, like using that as a justification for not, paying certain amounts of spousal support and child support. She gave me that same vibe. Well, you weren't the one that wrote it. This isn't your work. And it's like, but it doesn't have to be that person's specific task. Like Malcolm and Marie.
I was just about to say that.
You ain't thinking about all the times I sat and listened to you, give me all these revisions, or when you crying because the book is not going the way you thought it was going to go, or this publisher turned you down, or you don't have enough ideas, or you need me to help you convince this one friend to allow you to put them in the case study. Like all of that backstory gets forgotten once the success has been reached.
It cracked me up when he said, and I gave you all these ideas. I'm like, I didn't use any of them in the book.
You used his life.
First of all, man, we can tell that he has a lot of influence over the entire friend group. He is the person that everybody goes to.
He's
just
the
like
patriarch.
You are. Yeah. So I was just like, she's not seeing this clearly. I'm not saying he needed 50-50 either. But there has to be some reality. First of all, if you in Texas, it's 50-50.
Right. They was in the ATL though.
Yeah. So I was like, you really think you not about to give him part of $800 and some $1,000? Ma'am, right. Get your whole life together.
Especially money that's literally just sitting there.
You're not doing nothing with it.
Right. You still gonna have some.
And you still got books.
Right. You just wrote a book.
Right. That was the thing. I was like, I don't understand the hesitation there. But it definitely was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Possessive?
Over her money?
Like over the whole concept. Like
control
it was
freak.
There you go. I was wondering if control was what I was going for, but I was like,
but that makes sense.
I don't know if that quite fits, but it definitely had controlling / manipulative vibes to it.
Well, that's kind of how she had been in the marriage. Just the whole time.
Yeah.
Now see, she to me fits the vulnerable.
No. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I can definitely pick up vibes from her. Yeah. So what Dr. Wall's talking about is a wife that exhibits a vulnerable narcissism. And we've got some, there's, I don't want to say classic, but there's about 10 different kind of traits that go along with a vulnerable narcissistic wife. Now, of course, this is, like I said, specific to wife. This is not just a general vulnerable narcissist, but yeah, that kind of controlling vibe, absolutely. Wanting to make sure the narrative fits what's in her head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she did. And that's what I wonder, like, has she always been that way? Or what did she become that way at a certain point? Like maybe after she became a doctor, after the baby died, after how did you become one controlling? Well, you know what? I can probably identify with the controlling part, because I think for all of us, when we're in school, we have to be in control,
but
because
internally controlled versus outwardly.
Right.
That's when it's not the healthiest thing either way, but that's when it became super toxic, is when she tried to control everything around her. But I feel like it's still the trigger is probably the baby, because come on, do you really think Angela would have allowed that? She'd be to knock Patty upside her head. Like that's not in her nature at all. She listens to what she want to do.
Her dialogue.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. That's sad. But yeah, the death of a child, you know, none of us have children, so it's kind of hard to imagine what that will really do to a person. Mm-hmm. But just kind of imagining, man, that it does feel like it's sometimes something you can't really come back from. Of course, people do, and you know, it'll likely affect you your entire life, on some level. But man, that's
the thing, because people don't know how to grieve. Now, granted, in the movie, she's a psychologist, so you would think that, you know, she would have a better take on it. But because people don't know how to grieve, obviously that makes it worse, because you don't know how to grieve and still hold on to your baby. So, yeah.
Mix that in with blame. And then insert some self-hatred along with that.
Guilt and shame, all of that.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. That's a heavy cocktail. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else for them guys?
Oh, well.
You said something about the ficus.
Yeah. So when he got ready to move out after he, you know, had assaulted his wife, she had changed the locks, which would be a normal thing, but you can tell that she's not okay. She's had on the same clothes for days. Like, she probably stank. She's not eating. She's sitting in the dark smoking cigarettes.
And she left the house with her pajamas on.
Yeah, she ain't changing.
With a trench coat.
She's in the pit of despair at this point. So because he couldn't get in, he threw the little ficus, like the whole potted plant, through the glass, scared Terry and Marcus. They was like, man, what are you doing? And so he's like, we need to hurry. Because he already know, because he going back to when they was in college. I know she can get crazy. So he's trying to rush through and get everything.
And they still trying to get an explanation. I'm like, dude, y'all better move.
Because they not used to seeing, I mean, they all were there for the breakdown, but they like, oh, this ain't going to happen again with Patty. And Patty snuck up on them like Jason.
Baby, the acting was superb.
Yes.
In this scene.
Because I think it really did scare them. I think I remember Tyler Perry saying this whole grouping of scenes was a lot of improv because she was getting out everything that she had been experiencing with her brother Michael Jackson passing away suddenly. So this was real. This was not
I thought I remembered that.
Yeah,
that this was an impromptu. This was real.
Yeah. Oh.
And I think that's what made it hard for me to see this scene, because it took me back to, because I remember when Michael Jackson died, I was at Argosy at school studying or something, and my brother called me. And I was like, oh no, that's taking me back.
Yeah, I remember that. All of them. Like, this was a hard scene to watch because it was twofold. Yes, you're engrossed in what's happening in the movie, but you also know that what you're seeing her do is like, it's real and it's related to, you know, her best friend, which everybody knows that they had a really close relationship. So I was like, oh, y'all really hold her. But girl, she was swinging them golf clubs. She was breaking real glass.
I know.
Yeah. I thought
when that
it was
first
amazing.
one didn't break that table, she went and got another one. I was like, oh God, she's getting ready to get a bigger one.
And that she was able to keep with the lines. Like, and I don't know if the lines were ad-libbed and made sense.
I feel like they were ad-libbed.
You know, and she went back to a different time, you know, in that moment. But, you know, like the shock on on Terry and Marcus's face.
Yeah.
I know.
It was real.
It was real.
He was like, it looked like he was like,
they were frozen.
Insane, I think. Like, it was scary.
I was like, no, Penny, don't break the glass, Penny.
Yeah. It was hard. I'd say the only other thing is that after she flipped the freak out, she continued to flip the freak out and decides to go embarrass him at the architecture firm, which she helped pay for, which is weird. Why would you do that? And they know you. And brings in this cake that is huge, which you obviously know somebody's gonna pop out and lies and say, and I don't know why they didn't know this because it's your boss, that it was his birthday. And ironically, considering that Malik Yoba actually does like all women, wombed or unwombed, and a drag queen, from what it looks like, pops out and he said, oh, since you want to be a B, I brought you something. Like, she was going in. She was dressed bad. And unfortunately, you know, he tries to get away because you can tell that he's still trying not to
he's not trying
hurt
to
her. And so he like gets in his little cute sports car, and unfortunately he is
T-boned.
ran over. Yeah, he's T-boned. You hope he make it through, but he didn't.
No,
he dies.
Unfortunately.
And then she has. I was like,
she comes back to herself, but that's her thing.
But even still, the mental conversation you got, your baby died in the car accident. Now your husband died in the car accident. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, she only technically calls one of them when she get in her right mind. But it's just like, dang, girl, you can't get right. That's how she felt. She was hitting her head. Like she was method acting.
She was. But one thing that I was kind of talking about this morning was, no, she didn't cause either of them, but you can influence a situation to, a series of events.
Mm-hmm. Well, I said she caused the second one. Because I was like, oh, you're chasing him. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely I think her baby, clearly an accident, there, you can't anticipate something like that.
No.
But you show up to someone's job and as they're trying to escape and de-escalate the situation, you continue following behind them. Mm-hmm. So while of course she didn't cause him to drive, she didn't cause the truck to T-bone him, but the influence of the behavior led and sparked off a series of events, that led to his death, which is surprising that, she's not in jail. Like if this was in a real world setting.
Yeah, but I probably would have been able to, she probably would have got off one way or the other. Insanity, which that would have ruined her career. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that would have been the likely answer to that. Or the fact that he was driving erratically, which is what happened.
Because he didn't stop.
Mm-mm. No, he just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then their little section ends with, a year later. Mm-hmm. And she has wrote another book about grieving, which is appropriate, and I'm glad that she is, using her skill set now. Mm-hmm. And her little nosy white lady co-worker was like,
hey girl,
somebody just wants to meet you, he's a good benefactor, blah blah blah. And in walks Dwayne Johnson.
He was smaller here.
I think it's the angle.
He doesn't seem as big as he is, like buff as he is now.
I noticed that his head was shaped weirdly.
It's always been weird.
But I haven't paid attention to that because I guess I'm always looking at his body. But
man, fine.
That smile. I was like,
you have really nice teeth.
Look at those
sir.
Teeth. Oh my God. And they're so pearly white because, Americans, we're all about white teeth. The whiter, the better for us. And I was like, oh, they just look so healthy.
On my piece of paper, I said, Dwayne wants some coffee. So, y'all, there is talks that there is going to be a 3. And so I'm hoping that he actually comes back and they're dating and, he might check her a little bit and get her life together.
We'll see. Yeah. Time will tell. Mm-hmm.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's certain tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM.
All right. So we're going to transition over to Terry and Diane.
Mm-hmm.
At first, when I saw it, when it first started coming on and they was looking at them or whatever, I was like, okay, they're communicating well. They're doing good.
And they do communicate the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is you're not saying everything you need to be saying. Because
yes.
that's literally what Patricia said. They communicate too well. Mm-hmm. And then they be cutting each other.
They do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought that, you know, he was another one that showed investment in his spouse. They really kind of did like a 2 and 2 for this one. Well, when we talk about Marcus, that was something different. But at least Terry really seemed invested in his marriage
and family.
And they had non-traditional roles to a certain degree because he technically was the more mothering or nurturing
caretaker
person and got home with the kids type of thing. Oh, and by the way, y'all, Terry is a pediatrician, has his own practice, and Diane is a litigator
who just made partner. So, you know, it's everybody's power couples technically. And so they've also been together the same amount of time. I don't know if they've been married the same amount of time as Patricia and Gavin, because I don't think they ever said. But successful couple. All the way around. Yeah. They were a very interesting dynamic to me.
Yeah, because it was almost like he was starving for her affection and attention and time. And she was like trying to, I think because she was focused on her career, it was seemingly like she was detaching from him.
She reminded me of Robin Givens on
Boomerang.
Just not as cutthroat, Lord, but very cutthroat.
Yeah.
Poor work-life balance, and you
that's
see
what
that
I wrote off top.
Yeah, you see that a lot with people trying to make partner, of course, but you know, she just did a lot of shady stuff. Like, I'm all for women having agency over their body, but at no time should you not tell your husband you've tied your tubes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And you've said that you're gonna have another baby with this man, but you're putting it off.
Like, and you start an argument with this man every night so that y'all don't have to have sex. Like,
that he don't understand.
Right.
And he know her.
Right.
I said, you better know.
Yes.
Okay. That's
everything about that.
Observant.
Yes. Yes.
Understanding.
Yes.
If y'all hear the sirens, excuse it. We already told y'all that they be doing the most. So
it's just adding a little flair. That's all.
That's our.
They should have popped up when Gavin had the accident.
I was gonna say that's just our little music.
Man, you know, and she did a lot of deflecting.
Ooh.
Oh God.
You know.
Yeah.
When he was trying to say, "Look, I need you to put your phone down. Really focus. We do this every year. Like, why are you even trying to act like this is not our time? This is our vacation." And then she deflects and calls him controlling.
So you projecting and blaming, ma'am? That's what we doing. The man, you know this. Y'all been friends forever. So y'all met freshman year. I think they said at the first movie they was 34, 33, 34, something like that. So come on now.
Yeah.
You know better at this point.
Yeah, she's not paying attention to his needs. You know, we talked about his needs, her needs, and the 5 love languages in a previous session. So she's not paying attention to his needs, and he seemingly is still trying to show her what his needs are.
Yeah. All he need a little quality time
and
some physical touching. And he says it. I can honestly say, Terry did a good job of speaking what he needed instead of it just being like, you should know.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, like he said in there, he was tired of begging her for time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then she has this crazy notion that he jealous of her. Like, we were talking about this before we started recording. I was like, y'all both doctors.
Yeah.
What is he got to be? Y'all both make money. In fact, he probably get more money.
Probably.
Because medical doctors be bringing in the coins.
Yeah,
they do. They do. You know, the one thing that, you know, it didn't seem like she really did was, well, one, she didn't listen. And she heard what she wanted to hear.
Ooh.
And she didn't communicate. You know, that goes back to what you were saying that Gavin said to Patricia about you saying a lot of words, but like there ain't
saying nothing.
Yeah, like you're not saying nothing. So while she said stuff, it's like you're speaking to your husband, absolutely, but you're not saying anything that's really driving the conversation in any real direction.
Yeah, skate around the topic. And I appreciate that Terry had like a balance of that. Like it was, I can confront you, but I'm also not trying to push you into anything either. Like I want you to give it to me freely, whatever the it is. And so, but when she got out of hand, like when she came and was talking all about I don't know if it was Sheila. Sheila hadn't gotten there yet, and was talking about, oh, I'm so worried about my friend.
That was her excuse not to have
exactly.
sex that night.
And he was like, well, you remember not that part, but he said several phrases like that. You remember what you want to remember. That's the birthday situation. But in that setting, same thing.
Yeah.
When will you be ready? Like that. What man ask them questions? When do you think you'll be ready to be intimate? And then she would just cast her eyes off every movie. I was like, ma'am, that's your husband.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah. Well, there was a funny spot in there that I said, man, this movie had a lot of like ad-libby stuff that probably happened in real life. When he was chopping that wood outside and he was talking about like, man. And then he chopped it real hard one time and it went flying and hit
Marcus.
It hit Marcus in the leg. I was like, I feel like that was real.
I think that was real.
I was like, but look, that man got a lot of pent up frustration.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, again, I think this movie does a good job of showing how we do not focus on the emotional needs of men.
Yeah.
You know,
especially because you get to see both types of men, the emotionally intelligent and the emotionally unintelligent men in this movie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate that you get to see both ends of that.
Yeah.
But here you have a man that is trying to, like we've already said, trying to assert his needs, trying to communicate, trying to compromise / negotiate with you, is being patient with you, and you are just take it. Give me more. Give me more.
Just bent that poor man over. And that's Tyler Perry. You know he tall.
Yes.
Yeah.
And testosterone, is a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
You know, we as, biological women, we don't have a whole lot of it running through us. You know what I'm saying? So it's very hard for us to put ourselves in a position to understand what that really feels like. How that affects the way they think, what they visualize, what they feel. Because I imagine it's very difficult. But again, it's only I imagine. And when you have a spouse that's trying to explain to you how he wants to connect with you, none of that's being taken into account. Not just on I want to connect with my wife level because I love you and we have this relationship and I want to, be with you in that way. On top of that, I have physical drives that are also telling me like, hey, knock. You gonna take care of that? You gonna take care of that? How about now? How about now? And this is things I've heard from men before. Like it's just constantly something that's just a running tape that's just there. And none of that was spoken about or really fixed.
Yeah. I feel like the main difference in this couple from Patricia and Gavin was that they discussed their problems, but there was never resolution. Versus the other couple that it was just avoidance all day, every day. It's just, it makes you wonder what she had told herself that she was going to lose, which I get it as a woman climbing the corporate ladder, wanting certain things to be this way, and what your body has to go through in order to have a kid. But the thing was, she said she compromised when she had the first girl. The first kid.
I just read that on my notes. I was literally just thinking about that when you marry someone, check your value systems. Are they in line with one another? If you are a career driven, focused individual and you know that having a child is not going to align with those career goals, but you have a partner that wants not only one child but more, like
four, didn't he?
You want multiple children,
right?
You really got to take into account, is this going to be a good match for you in the totality?
Yeah.
You know, not just looking at the parts of this person that you like, but looking at them as a whole piece and like, hold on. Yep, that's not gonna work.
You know, that goes with, you know, paying attention to, even if you do like this person, even if you are in love with this person and you realize later on that you didn't want to have children because you want to make, you know, your career your baby or your career your priority, that's fine. But you have to be honest with yourself. You have to know what it is that you want in the long run, so that you won't take this person down this road with this journey with you, that a different journey with you than they thought that they were getting.
Yeah. And I feel like with them, it was just so unnecessary, because she could have just communicated the things, or, hey, let's hold off to this. Let's do it like this, because he was all for family planning. And you already know most of us got here because of an accident. Like, let's just, I didn't know.
Guess what?
It happened. You know what I mean? So it's not like he was saying, hey, we need to have them back to back to back, or it needs to be like this. He's like, okay, I know this is important to you. This is important to me. The man had to go to residency. Right. You had to go get your doctorate too. Like, y'all both are at doctorate levels in your profession. So there had to be some form of planning. And he knew you wanted to make partner, which, if I'm not mistaken, that was the agreement. After you make partner, you get in there, you get settled, and then we have the next baby. Like, now, if you're changing the rules,
right,
moving the finish line, we're not doing this today, okay?
And the thing is, if you, like it was said earlier, if you decided that you wanted to change the finish line, then have a discussion so that your partner can be a part of it. Don't just go. And my thing is, why, if you had already had your tubes tied, why didn't you want to have sex? You weren't gonna get pregnant.
Tubes tied when she delivered the girl.
Right. So why,
girl? Well, because first of all, she married to a doctor, so he's gonna start wondering, why are you not getting pregnant? Because I know exactly how you got pregnant last time. Because obviously his swimmers is working, because he says we had sex one time when you got pregnant with her. True. So he knows kind of how he knows her body well, and he knows how. He one of them dudes that know her cycle and all that other kind of stuff. Even if he wasn't no doctor, just the character that he plays. And I feel like she had to make up her lie in order for him not to get suspicious. And if Mike hadn't been telling everybody secrets, he still wouldn't have known.
But the thing is, that baby was about 4. She looked like she was about 5 or 6 years old. So you mean to say 5 to 6 years? Y'all, like,
how it didn't come up?
Right.
Well, you know, technically to get pregnant, it ain't really that big of a window. And if they've not been having consistent weekly sex for, let's just say 6 years, like we'll say a year before she got pregnant, this the norm. Because he hadn't had sex with his wife for 3 months.
Right. So I'm just confused on why she wasn't consistently, at least in these 3 months. That's what made me think she was already cheating
in the next room.
Right.
I almost put that on the post today. I just don't think she's that smart. She good with, you know, problem solving other people's stuff, but she ain't that smart when it comes to personal affairs.
I got the impression that, so of course this is back after watching the films, that if she wasn't having an affair at that time, the seed of wanting to was already planted at that time. You know, that level of disconnect that she felt, because it's not all, I just don't want to have a baby with you. You know, of course that's some.
I think she's smelling herself too. It's that
I want somebody on my caliber,
it's that, or what I believe mighty, that ooh, like, I'm like, ma'am, calm down. Go and get you a little boring man, because he can't be on the same level as you, and y'all got all this other stuff going on. Like, it really don't make no sense. And the fact that he's a pediatrician and he get out by 5, he doing it.
But there's a difference between, you know, she's a lawyer, and what, again, this all kind of goes down to the messages that that are communicated to us on a societal level.
Yeah.
What we believe lawyers are, that's power, that's flash. There's a certain level of prestige that comes with being what people think lawyers are. So, and I've made partner.
Yeah.
So
it give me anxiety.
Right. And you're a pediatrician. Even though you're a doctor, He's
not a surgeon.
Right.
Plastic surgeon.
You're not a surgeon.
Yeah.
You're a pediatrician. So even within the medical field, of course, there's hierarchies because, people are going to have a certain level of respect for a surgeon versus a podiatrist. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So if in my mind, I think I'm higher, regardless of the financial, whether they were on par with each other or he or she was making more, but because of what I believe this position is, and he matched that,
Yeah.
Think about Suits. Anybody ever seen the show Suits?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he may have matched that. And you kind of have, and your husband's a pediatrician. He may be a down home kind of small practice. He has a much more kind of country vibe. And maybe I wanted a power man. Somebody to drive it home.
Yeah.
In more way than one.
Well, in the second one, he got his son.
He did. And
5
I was like,
years later.
Which they said something about 3 years. The timing.
They said 3, but I was like, that boy is 5.
I know. I was like, y'all said 3, but I was like, this kid don't look he looked to be about 5 or 6.
Yeah. I was like, he too big.
Right.
Because that girl look about 12.
Yeah. How y'all feel about her forgetting his birthday?
Girl.
And Sheila had to remind her that it was his birthday.
But you know what? I was like, as selfish as she is, I'm not even surprised.
Yeah, it made sense.
Like, how you been with this man since y'all was 18 and you forgot his birthday?
You
just put it in your
for
calendar.
real smelling yourself.
And to come home and his assistant, his nurse.
And you got the nerve to get mad?
Oh, so y'all having an affair? Ma'am, you ain't doing him.
And I'm like, ain't that the pot calling the kettle black?
Girl, I was so upset. And you can tell he's such a respectful, like polite person, but that little temper, you keep your voice down. You're not going to wake up. Is her name Kenya? I just made the baby name.
Yeah, Kenya.
Okay, you're not going to wake up Kenya. And then she's steady following him, antagonizing him. You're just jealous. You're just this. I'm like, ma'am, what? You missed the birthday. He didn't forget his birthday. He was born.
Right.
Right. And he was there waiting
for you.
For you.
And that's when he said, you remember what you want to, love.
Ooh. Yeah, which is the truth.
Yeah. That's...
People make time for what they want to make time for.
Yeah.
Girl, when he took that ring off and said, you about to lose your husband, I said, oh, he done moved out, put the ring on. Oh,
it's so sad.
It is. It's so heartbreaking.
But I was proud of him.
Yeah.
You better set your boundaries.
When we talk about infidelity and, just kind of, or the implication, because this was more of her implying that he was having an affair. But he was like, no, you're not going to disrespect me like that. No. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm not doing. And I know who I am to you in this marriage. And you are not being fair, and what you are saying and doing is unacceptable to me, and I'm not going to take that. So you need to understand. Now, of course, we know it ended up being a ploy. But I don't know if ploy is the right word, but he said, I'm just trying to teach her a lesson.
Yeah, but I feel like he was saving face in front of the boys when he said that, because in that moment he was done.
Yeah, possibly, absolutely.
He done really went and got a whole situation.
Yeah, he done got a whole apartment.
I know, and it was big.
Right.
I was like, this is a house.
That's what I thought. It was a house.
I don't know what it was.
No. I'm saying she said apartment, but I was like, dude, this is a lot of space. But then I was like, you do got kids, so that a kid at that time.
Man, yeah, it was big.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, like, she was having
yet.
an emotional. That's from the second one.
That's
the
second
second one.
Yeah. But
when he was able to break down what happened in February the 17th and 63 days and what happened March the 8th, I'm like, you better know.
He was
the difference.
Observant. He did.
Said, where is mine?
He said, your perfume ain't the same.
You took a little bit more time doing your makeup.
You came
checking your outfits,
sexed him down, and was thinking of him. Like this, when we were talking about emotional,
I wrote that in my notes.
Affairs, this is the epitome of it. She had crossed over into quite a few of them. So emotional, probably a little financial in there because you know they spending time together, and the platonic, you know. So, ooh, girl, and that little. He was crushed. He already knew what was happening because he had been asking questions like, did these flowers come with the card?
Well, she called him Phil at the beach.
And he was like,
who Phil? I'm gonna go Phil.
The tub
man, we don't even say that. Were you gonna run the bath water? What? It's like your man named Terry. Terry.
Yeah, that don't sound like Phil.
Yeah.
No.
And the fact that you know, after you say it and he said, who, like that instant, I'm telling you, if you pay attention to body language, facial expressions, tone, all of that slight hesitation is all the person needs.
Yeah.
It don't take a whole lot to gather information from somebody. So when he say, who's Phil? And you go,
Phil?
Because lies
That's
don't
it.
need to be thought about. Unless you got like chemo brain or pregnancy brain or something like that, you know, brain trauma. But that's different. We talking about normal, average people.
Yeah.
Oh, girl, it just broke my heart to see.
Because you could see his whole face was crushed.
And it was hard to watch her too, you know, realize what she was doing. And you know that she still does love her husband, but she not paying attention to what she doing, which is ironic, the amount of cheaters in y'all friend group.
I know.
You got three of them in there. So it's just kind of like, you ain't paying attention to any of this. And she's probably thinking, oh, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean this. And they actually talk about what we talked about in I Love Misery about, is there a difference between emotional affair versus sexual affair?
Yep.
And they was like, nah, she in a whole relationship with him.
Okay.
Right. She is.
Yeah.
Don't bring me no calla lilies. First of all, I don't want no calla lilies, but I'm just saying, don't bring me nothing. You can bring me a cup of coffee. But that's about it.
Man.
She should have lied better than that.
No.
I would have been like,
I told you she's stupid.
I would have been like, I don't know. Because I don't know if they just handed it to me. So they said it was delivered. I thought it was from you.
And that's the only thing that saves her because she is so
oblivious.
She's green when it comes to stuff like that. It's not this calculated. Even though she's calculated when she be deflecting, she's not calculated with this. Because Lord, he'd have raped. It would have been no more Terry and Diane.
Very different than the next set of individuals that we're going to talk about. So if you have thought that we've been pretty mild-mannered up until this one is now, these next two sets of couples, oh boy.
First of all,
Lord have mercy.
This airplane scene. Y'all go ahead.
So who we talking about? I was like,
so if you haven't guessed by now, so the sets of individuals we're about to talk about is Sheila and her in movie one husband Mike, and then her. Well, his concubine.
Well, her friend
and his mistress, Trina. And then Officer Troy will come in a little bit later.
Yes.
Now, you go ahead, Doctor.
First of all, I need to start from the beginning. Like,
the beginning.
First of all,
wait, before you go in.
Go ahead.
We got to tell who they are, though. So I don't know what Mike does, but I'm assuming he's some type of investment type of situation because he says he made out okay. And so I don't know if that's investment in property or investment in like financial avenues. Sheila is a stay-at-home wife, not mom, stay-at-home wife, but that's a later abusive manipulation tactic that we find out. Trina is just her home girl that she didn't allow to be around her husband, and that turns into something else. And then Troy is the owner of the home that they are using in the first movie, and he's also the local sheriff and is a military brat.
So the first scene, it starts off with Sheila, Mike, and Trina, the friend, getting on this airplane. First of all, I'm trying to figure out who bought the tickets. How did
Sheila?
I know, but who bought the tickets and didn't disperse them correctly?
Yeah.
To why you not sitting beside your own husband?
Well, she did disperse them correctly. She just was walking up the aisle by herself while she was talking to Trina, and she's oblivious. She's like, okay, I'm gonna make my marriage. She reminds me, I don't know if y'all have watched this show, and I made this note in my notes. This girl named Paige on Married at First Sight. Mike is her husband Chris, and she is Paige. God has, what God has brought together. Ma'am, ain't no God in your marriage. It's Satan.
Girl, only thing I'm trying to figure out is how Trina ended up sitting beside her husband. And
because he controls her too.
And then first of all, how you go in first? What's this? How you do that? How you do that first? How you get into the aisle first beside my husband? And first of all, you should have been sitting beside me.
Well, he did push
or
her, though.
I was going to be sitting beside my husband.
Why are you here?
That is the first thing.
Like,
why was you even invited on a couple's retreat?
Because Sheila, I'm like, man, why do you feel sorry for her? You can't save your own situation, but you trying to save hers.
And you trying to fix her up? Fix yourself up with a better husband.
Well, obviously she did.
Yes, but in that time.
I was like, the stuff that
he said
her
on the
husband
plane
was saying, it just...
And then he gave her,
that pat.
the way he gave her that money.
That money.
Mm-hmm. Threw
And
it at her.
Counting it and degrading her at the same time.
Yeah. And you don't realize until the second movie when he's reminiscing about a whole bunch of stuff from his perspective that actually he's been abusing her the whole time. And physically.
They have two different memory perspectives of their marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He thought he was a good dude.
He still ain't.
For a many, for a big majority, of the relationship. He really thought he was out here. He thinking it's all good fun. She knows she big.
He wasn't a okay person until he was almost dead.
Right.
And I say that
with
as
he just
much
wasn't
as I can.
And I think that's the thing. Like, he just wasn't a horrible husband. Like, he just was he almost a trash person.
Bad. Like, even his friends would be like,
dude. Uh-huh. Like, because he fat shamed her the whole time.
Fat shamed her, talked about the sex, talked about what she don't do. Mm-hmm. That's when we hear Gavin talk about the whole 80-20 rule, and you be over here got a whole full complete package, and it's just these little bit, not that you're not getting, and you'll trade your 80 for a 20. And Trina or Tricker, that's where I get my brother's nicknames for they girlfriends from. You left your wife for this 20 who don't do nothing.
But spend your money.
That's it. I know. The thing I was saying about her, I was like, she doesn't just have low self-esteem. She has no self-esteem.
Because it would have been no way I would have drove. I wouldn't have drove, period. But I definitely wouldn't have drove by myself.
No. I was like, at least Trina getting off this plane. At least. Babe, you want to keep acting stupid, you can act stupid. But Trina,
you coming with me.
You coming with me.
One way or the other.
And the thing is, she did try. She ain't try hard enough. She attempted to. He was like, no, sit down. She'll be all right. She'll be fine. Girl, his hand would have been broke.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, Sheila, how are you this oblivious?
Well, she's a better woman by this point, You got to think.
Yeah.
He has trained her well. Well, one of the conversations she ends up having with Troy is that she used to be self-deprecating and do it before he could say it. So she just, it was like
he was a bully. It was just,
and he was
so disgusting.
Out in the open with it. He was like, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. Talk crazy about y'all's wives. Talk crazy about my wife. Blatantly flirt with Trina in front of y'all. Sneaking out the bedroom in the girl.
I'm like, how have none of your friends whooped your behind all these years? Like, I just didn't understand how he was still part of the friend group.
Yeah.
I just didn't get it.
I didn't understand that either. Because it would be no way.
How do y'all find it? Yeah, like Because it almost, and I know this is not in reality, but it almost seems like y'all are saying that this is acceptable. You're continuing to have this man in y'all's friend group, knowing full well.
Yeah, the silence speaks loudly. Because I literally was thinking that when Sheila was still driving and she had just pulled over the first time, and then it pans to them getting out of the taxi, and the women come down and like, where's Sheila? You left her. You did all this. Like the women giving him the 3rd degree and the men just sitting there. And I was like, this is so stereotypical of when we say protect black women. And it's always other black women protecting black women, even though it's a black woman hurting us. You know what I'm saying? But the men are just not showing up the way that they need to do. Now, of course, later on in the movie, they do check him and they just do it in private or whatever. But I'm like, you should have checked.
They do it lightly.
Light.
They very lightly check him. Because, like, you fat shamed your wife. First of all, you showed up to a couples retreat
with another woman.
And we know you're still married.
And we know your wife is a good wife to you.
Very
that
good.
Right there would have been enough to be like, nah, you got to go. You got to go, dog.
I don't even know why Trina was able to stay. She should have, ma'am.
Patty. That's why. Patty. That's exactly why she got to stay, because Angela walked down them steps and knocked that suitcase out of Mark's hand.
Girl,
she
I was
can
so
get
happy,
it.
right? Because she wanted to be at a couples retreat with her single self. Let her single self take care of her single self.
I'm telling single bag.
I'm telling you, my favorite woman that gives them antidotes is really Angela, because Angela never missed nothing. Now internally, she's special, but she was like,
I loved how she was checking and observing and evaluating and speaking up for the stuff that was going on, going on in her life. But she was just annoying with her husband.
Yeah, that delivery is
hot mess.
Oh, we gonna get to them, y'all. But I agree with y'all. She was she was the only person that I felt truly stood up for Sheila.
Yeah,
you know, I feel like,
and Troy.
I mean, but he hasn't really entered into the picture at this point, you know. But outside of the little bit that Patricia did and the little bit that Diane did, you know, Angela was really the only one like, nah, this is not right. And I'm going to let her know what in the world is going on, because this is not acceptable. This is somebody we love.
Yeah, but you can tell, because this normally happens when you know, you probably have a quad or whatever. You can tell which two are closer together, Diane and Patricia, and then Sheila and Angela, which would make sense. The mousy person who has no voice is going to have the loud, boisterous person, and then the two that are kind of in the middle
will gravitate.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, there was just so much ickiness. He's one of them kind of. I've been seeing this meme go around on Instagram, and well, I don't have Twitter, but it came from Twitter, about people. They said he understood the assignment. So it's about, the meme is about actors who really played a part real well, or who play whatever role they've been assigned. They play that role really well, and this is an example of understanding the assignment.
Yeah, girl, I was like, he was almost up there with the attorney that couldn't walk. And Kimberly at least threw him in that bathtub. I was like, I'm about to not like Richard. Richard, get it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. He played the mess out of that.
It for me, seeing his role was exhausting, because I know I'm one of those people that, I'm trying not to cuss. Hold on, give me a second. Like, right? You, first of all, we not getting ready to have. We getting ready to have some Ike and Tina at the end part. We getting ready to be fighting for real, sir. Thank you.
He was exhausted.
Yes.
And the amount of correction that everybody had to give him. You cannot be this damn old and still acting like a child.
No insight.
And no self-awareness at all.
And girl, a prime example. It's got to be a rule out there that if your wife ain't giving you none, you can go cheat on her. What? It's the Constitution.
Why are you married?
You could have been a great polygamist. And I mean polygamist, not polyamorous, a polygamist.
Because that's very different.
Yes.
You know, like,
Sister
and I mean
wives.
in the traditional way, yes. Sister wives, where it's one dude and all the rest is the women. But he was just, and he was demeaning, like,
to everyone. Again, that's why I did not understand how he was allowed to maintain being in that friend group. It's like they laughed it off, and they tried to hold him accountable, but then they would laugh off certain things. And it's like, no, he's demeaning to all of you. Y'all allow him to speak crazy to y'all's wives, about y'all's wives. And it just is like, oh, that's just Mike.
And, you know, that makes me wonder, like, you know, usually in friend groups, everybody brings something to the group. What did he bring to the group?
probably the comedic relief, like the sarcasm. But maybe as he got older, it became more toxic. It's always seems like it's been toxic, but he seems like he's the joker of the group, the prankster, that all that kind of stuff, and the slick talker. But he trash. He is a trash human being.
Yeah.
And first of all, that makes me also wonder about Trina. Like, you,
she trash too.
I know.
She a gold digger. For real.
I ain't saying she ain't messing with no.
She wouldn't.
Right.
At all.
Because he realized afterwards, oh, that was 20. He said she don't cook, she don't clean.
She don't do nothing.
She don't do nothing.
But spend his money.
But spend his money.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do you expect? You went for flash. You went for a trophy. You went for what you thought was what you wanted. You know, you went for the thing that looked good. Again, everything that glitters ain't gold. And you learned very quickly, like, hold on, like, this other woman really was down for me.
Y'all, that scene in the bedroom, y'all, like, I think I reacted like this the first time. I wanted to jump through the TV.
Oh, when she had a nightgown on?
Little nightgown.
Her little negligee.
Right. Trina lied to you. You need to go slap Trina.
See,
you really do need to go slap
That should have
Trina.
been an indication right there. The way he had phrased that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she
my
lied
nerves
to
was
you.
bad. My nerves was bad.
And I was like, it wasn't even that bad.
No. Talking about
It was
she
actually
looked like the
cute.
sun or something. Like, I was like, oh my God.
First of all, she yellow. I mean, what was you expecting?
I don't even know.
He just weird.
And then you laugh. Do you know how degrading that is for somebody when you're trying to appear sexy?
Be open and vulnerable,
And they laugh.
And the thing is, you're doing this for him. Because first of all, I don't put on lingerie or negligees or anything like that for myself. I'm putting that on for you.
Exactly. And you, I mean, talk about this, you know, if you could see my fingers like this small, you know, feelings lower than dirt, you know, that you do not have any awareness of me as a human being, not even as your wife, like me as a human being.
And then she still said, I love you. I want to make this work. What do I need to do to make this work?
you can start by losing 50 pounds. Okay.
I done got mad. I can't talk no more about them because I done got mad again.
But we missing one person in the trio. Now, Troy. We talked about Troy earlier. Troy fine.
Groove Theory. I always call him Groove Theory.
Even though he's not Groove Theory.
I know he's not, but like
they
he
have a
reminds me of-
similar look a little bit. But he's very nice. He's like boy next door. He's the knight in shining armor. He has a lot of the same traits that Gavin has. They're very similar, actually.
Yeah, I can see that.
But he is exactly what Sheila ends up needing. You know,
The
even though,
opposite of what she had.
exactly, because I think people kind of forget. Like, you need to figure out who you are, and you have to realize, ma'am, you can't. He too much. Your first husband is too much in comparison to you. He does say, Troy. He does say that he was married at one point because he asked her the question when she gets to the police station, why are you driving by yourself? I know if you were my wife, I wouldn't let you drive by yourself. And she was like, are you married? He's like, divorced. She said, And then,
which was slightly judgmental.
It was.
Ma'am, you have no room.
No. And it's ironic because I'm like, that's the most shade you're going to give. See, this why your man walking all over you right now. But then, he asked her, you want to eat something? I made some chili. He's talking about, don't I look like I can eat? I'm a big girl. He's talking about, well, big girls need to eat too, right? So I appreciate that he never allowed her to bait him into those types of conversations, and he held her accountable to be there for herself.
Because when she said that she needed to lose weight or something when she was working in the little store, and he was like, well, if you wanted to lose weight, then just exercise.
Girl, the way she was looking at that man
and that neck, he has that bone structure.
He got nice teeth too.
Them teeth.
So you
he did that little. He did the little half cock smile too. When you just do one side. I was like, tell me if you want. That's just like, Lord have mercy. Yes. I don't know why I always call him, because like you said, they have similar features.
Groove Theory dude got nice teeth too. If y'all wonder, Groove Theory it's the black guy that was in Beauty Salon with Queen Latifah, and he said, I take your man. That's the real guy from Groove Theory. He was in a group with Emile LaRue, but he fine. Anyway, we done
and that Marvin Gaye was playing. Boy, I was like,
yeah.
She ain't felt that in probably years.
Time. And then he kissed her. I said, you better suck her soul out of her body and then put it back in polished and stuff.
Yeah. She said, can we pray?
We need.
She know what to do with that.
Help me. Well, we done skipped stuff. I'm sorry, we done got sidetracked with Troy, but the reason why she ends up staying is because at that dinner we talked about earlier, Mike starts spilling everybody's secrets because, of course, Angela is still, taking up for her friend, and spills the tea that Trina and Mike have been having an affair. He talks to her real crazy again, snapping his fingers, and then she just picks up a wine bottle and beat that beat with a bottle. That's exactly what she did and walked over.
Because I'm like, you have the gall, the audacity,
the unmitigated.
Okay, to sit there and be like, look, you could have the rent house, and I'll give you this,
and you ain't got to thank me for that. I told you I can't talk about him.
Like this woman just learned that you're having an affair
with her friend.
And then you're going to be like, and you're just saying it so callously, emotionless, you could have this and you could have this, so, it is what it is.
She frozen. Well, she frozen probably for, if I'm saying in month time, probably the first 2 months that after this has happened. She frozen when it's announced. She's frozen in that room. Did I kill him? I should have killed him. Like she is in a whole other space. Talking about snapped. Yes. She was almost there if it wouldn't have been for Troy.
Her episode was getting written right then.
Yeah. Right.
Reenactment City. Like he was. I'm like, was he antisocial? Because this kind of is giving antisocial vibes. You're not in a serial killer kind of way that most people think, but his lack of empathy, his lack of...
I want to say narcissism.
Definitely that.
I think he could probably be a classic narcissist. Not to the level of malignant, but I think he could. Yeah. He could be.
Yeah.
Because he's still... Yeah, I would say narcissist.
Yeah, because that emotionless... Oh... Y'all go ahead, because y'all know I can't talk about it.
What I was saying earlier, the dark empath, where he has enough charisma to draw you in, but then he's emotionally aware enough to know exactly how to do it. Like he had that down pat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there was almost no redeeming quality about him. to the point to even when you learn later in the second movie that he's sick, it's still even difficult to have.
Like, you got it because you deserved it. And
Yeah.
I say that as somebody who done battled cancer.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, I can't even feel sorry for you because you still doing stuff.
Person.
You still done grabbed her. You still done, you told the sheriff why he needed the job. Like, it was just so many pieces, and I'm just like, oh, you deserve to get knocked out. I was like in pain for him because I know what that feel like, you know, to be sick from chemo, but
yeah, like it's so hard because, you know, there's always like the person you love to hate. He doesn't even have that quality,
Right.
No.
You know, he's not an anti-hero. He's not the villain you love to hate. Like, you're just straight villain.
He always puts his foot in his mouth on purpose.
Because, like, I don't even understand why he showed up to the beach.
Girl, that second trip, I was like, oh, it's my timeshare. I don't care who, you can come another time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have some sort of empathy because I'm like, okay, well, he know he's sick. They don't know he's sick. He know he's sick, so he don't know if he gonna survive. So maybe he's just trying to spend time with his friends for the last time.
If he would have been making amends, then yeah. But
right, but he wasn't. He was being messy.
Yeah.
And that's what took me back to, why are you here?
yeah.
And it was clear by this point, they don't want you here.
Right.
No, nobody.
And see, it's not self-aware, because when you're self-aware, you're aware of how your behavior and your actions, how they affect other people. And he was totally not aware.
Oh, he was oblivious.
Yeah.
Or he just didn't care.
That too.
I think he didn't care. And, you know, in the second film, he was doing a lot of the stuff he was doing to, air quotes, win Sheila back. But I'm like, Sheila don't want you. She wants somebody that's nice and kind and considerate and can give her babies. Because obviously you've been shooting blanks for 14 years.
Right. And my thing is, you were trying to do things to get her back, but you hadn't changed
At all. The only reason why you semi are nicer is because you have cancer.
Right.
And the way he was looking at him, it made me think, like, did he really have something going on? Because he looked different. You know what I mean? But he might just gain weight. I hope he didn't have nothing.
Oh, you talking about
Richard.
in the real life.
the real life.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe they had to make him look that way because he had the
That's
diagnosis.
possible. That's possible. Makeup. Because you know Tyler Perry, that ain't his strong suit in his films and movies and stuff like that.
But my thing, it was like, you were disrespectful to her husband for no reason.
I was so glad he had some snapback on him.
Me too.
He did.
I was mad. Troy
said-
almost got these word hands.
He said, now nurse you.
Now nurse your little fruity drink.
Yes.
He said, I'm not going to, he's like, what I did appreciate about Troy, he like, look, I ain't going to be like them. He didn't say this, but that's what he was
he's
saying.
like, I don't like you.
I'm not going to be these
Right.
other ones.
Right.
I don't like you, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend to like you.
Yeah.
So sit over there and be quiet and nurse your little fruity drink.
So obviously, y'all, Troy and Sheila end up getting married before the end of the first movie. They all go back for Dr. Patricia's award ceremony, and then they come back. They all booed up. She looking good. She done
She got them twins sitting up right.
done lost all her weight. She done went off on Trina. That was like a whoop that.
Girl, I love that
Like,
that bathroom
You
scene.
better be Jilly
Yes.
from Philly, because that's who she was in that scene. I said, come back. You gotta
love
be your
that
mouth.
scene.
Sheila.
Yes, be Sheila. But we enter into that second movie with, like I said, we're assuming it's 5 years, even though they say 3 years because of the age of the kids. And they've moved to Atlanta to be closer to her mom.
And their friends.
And he has sold the business but kept the house, and so now they have 2 mortgages. He doesn't have any job because he's overqualified. I can attest. I know how that feels sometimes.
Yeah. And I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, ain't this a page out of Soul Food?
Ain't it? Lim and Bird. Right?
Especially when she went to
I was like,
Mike
out of all the people, that's who
and
you go
asked
to?
him to help.
Because if that's the case, you really should have just went ahead and went to the girls like you had already said that you was gonna do, because that
And
would have
asked them
been
for the money.
less. Who destructive
child? Because when he went up into that and to that loft or whatever that was,
he was like,
thought
what the
he
hell
was
are you
getting ready to
doing
hit
here?
her.
Why are you here? You're not supposed to be.
Oh my
here.
God! I thought that
Yes.
was getting ready to be some domestic violence for real.
That was some good acting in that scene too.
Yeah.
He did a good job. I said, why is he not in more movies?
I don't know, because
like,
between
look at
him
him.
and
Patricia?
Sheila.
Oh,
In that scene, between the way the two of them were acting, like you could almost genuinely feel like terror.
Yes.
You know,
Ooh.
I was scared for her.
yeah,
Yeah, because he found out, because Mike can't keep his mouth closed, that he had gotten a job from the police chief's golfing buddy. And he's like, do you know his name? Do you know where he lives? Why are you giving this man this information that you don't know, sir? But you know, other people don't be realizing they not supposed to be giving out that information.
right. Yeah, and I was like, this is a kind of like soul food. You didn't give your spouse the opportunity to really do for themselves.
Because he could have went and because you could have told him, hey, you know, Mike has a friend that he play golf with. He's the chief of police. Maybe you can go talk to him and he can talk to him. I know you don't like him, but maybe if you just put that aside for right now and just go talk to him and see if he'll do it.
And then that could have been a man-to-man conversation
Exactly.
instead of, excuse me, y'all, instead of her putting herself in the middle of it, especially because they've also just had a baby. Like, it's a baby, y'all. Like, maybe 7 months, 8 months.
The baby was sitting up, so
Yeah.
at least 7 months.
Yeah. But you know, still dependent on her. You can tell they make the comment, oh, you done lost all the baby weight and all this other kind of stuff. You're looking good. So, you know, it's a lot going on. She already got insecurities from the previous marriage. And I love the fact that she finally gets her voice.
Oh, I said that in my notes.
Yes. And she was like, you don't ever get to do me these. I'm paraphrasing, y'all. You don't ever get to do me like this. I don't know how she said it, but something to the effect of, you are married to a woman that's been with a bad husband. And then he said the reverse of what she said. It's like, when you don't connect with me, it makes me want to do something in order for you not to connect with me. So I was glad that she knew what her mapping looked like. And she was like, I'm trying to let you know.
Like, she told him, you cannot talk to me like that.
Right.
Ever. Yeah.
I was glad she found her voice too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
He was scared. He said, I thought you left me.
I know.
Where was I going without the baby?
I thought about that too. Like,
You know she
Shoot.
breastfeed. You know she breastfeed.
Yeah. Boy.
yeah.
But I think, you know, this kind of goes when you're in an emotional state, you don't think with logic. You
At
know what
all.
I'm saying? Like, you're just kind of running rampant and stuff is just all over the place. So, you know, when she's like, no, you know, if you've been in a battered situation and you've been able to get out, like, your mindset becomes almost zero tolerance.
You're
Yeah.
always looking. Oh, what you say? You had said something. Oh, okay. You didn't. Okay. I was
You're
tripping.
hypervigilant.
Yeah. So, you know, she's very prepared to now go toe to toe, because that mind of, I'm never going to be in that position ever again.
Yeah, because the work that you had to do to get out of that position was too much. Like, I'm not going back there again.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to do
Yeah.
that work again.
And I think in this situation, you know, a flaw that Troy ended up having is that he stopped allowing her at certain points to be his helpmeet. And if anybody was supposed to be a helpmeet, it's Sheila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's that soft, kind, you know, giving woman, very meek, very, you know, babe, I'm your rock, what you need me. She unfortunately is a ride or die.
But he did I know, right? We can't stand that word.
At all.
But he did what the typical man does and said it. I'm not used to this. I'm used to being a provider.
Yeah. And I get it. And I think what men in this situation need to challenge themselves. What other ways other than financial can I provide? Providing is not just a financial obligation.
Yeah.
How are you providing emotionally, sexually,
spiritually,
in the home,
physically,
parental? It's so many things.
Yeah.
Levels, and the fact that you deduce your value to some coins, that's a hot mess.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. But I get why. I get that he wants to be able to do that, especially him coming from a military background and things like that. There's a certain structure that he feels is needed, and he don't want to see everything gone. He done found his forever person, and now it's going up in flames in his mind.
And you also have to take into consideration the friend group that she has.
Yes,
all
money,
all of these individuals. I mean, and we're not just talking about like, you make $100,000, so you think you balling out of control. No, these people, I mean, you just have almost $1 million just literally sitting.
No, they do
in the bank. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for him to be a cop, and I know even on a cop salary, there's no way I'm going to be able to compete with the things that these individuals can do.
And she was able to be a housewife with Mike,
and she still is.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, but she
taking
was
care of everything. She's a kept woman,
right? And so but that's the thing, like, she was able to comfortably be that with Mike.
Yeah, like he still was able to provide the same lifestyle that the rest of the individuals were living.
Right.
I wish that Troy, because at one point he did blame her for the decision. I knew I should have went with my first mind or whatever, but I wish when they were deciding to move that he would have found somebody to take over the store. And then that would have been 2 revenues coming in, because obviously most people are not going to go stay in the home other than like snowing time, and if it's it looked like it was probably summer
during travel season,
right? So no money comes into that spot when it's the majority of the year. So I think if he would have been a little bit more business minded instead of just catering to her, which we already know that's kind of how he is with Sheila, that could have helped set them up. And then also maybe he needed to leave later and then travel back and forth. There were options
or
that
find
they didn't.
a position first.
That too.
You could have traveled to interview and things like that.
And while I'm trying to figure, and maybe she did, maybe that was what was sustaining them as well. How she didn't get no alimony?
She didn't want it. Said that in the first one she signed it over. She Tina Turnered him.
Oh, okay.
I just want to keep my name.
Yeah. So I think that would have definitely helped them if they would have planned a little bit better. But I get it. They got married quickly, but still it's 5 years later. So
I know the timeline in this it throws me off, but
I get the.
Yeah, but they've been together for a little while. But I agree with both you ladies. There were different options that could have been executed to get there, and even going on the trip itself. That was something that could have been communicated with the friends. Either you just have to bite the bullet and we can't go this year,
or can y'all help or something.
Yes. Hey, do y'all mind spotting us this year? Y'all know we just moved to Atlanta. It's going to be hard. But you got to sit with your friends and have that discussion, as a collective. And they seem like they would have been, they wouldn't have held it against them. They would have understood, like, here are the circumstances. We like this man. Look what he's done for you. This is our way to celebrate and thank you for helping our friend become the woman that we always knew was inside of her.
But I feel like if she would have brought that up, he probably would have turned it down.
He may have, but I think it also could have been delivered in a way that he would have at least been more receptive to it, because you got to think this is her friend group, and so he hasn't made enough connections with these individuals. He's still an outsider, even though
which is why I think he would have turned it down, because it is her friend group, because it was something that she had brought up,
the money.
Yeah,
I mean, she was going to ask and stuff.
Yeah, and he was like, no, those are your friends, and he turned that down.
Yeah,
and I think he's used to the loner life. His last parent died a while ago, so he's been the sheriff, which is the person that takes care of everybody in the little town. But I do think there needed to be some better communication in the hard times. But it looks like this was probably their first for real big situation.
Yeah, because they just moved, so or recently moved rather. I don't know what the timeline was.
Wow. There's always more we can unpack on them, but
yeah.
We think it nutshells it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, this last Lord. Couple.
This one is tense.
Boy. Angela and Marcus. Okay, so our last couple, who are the piece de resistance, is Marcus and Angela. Yes. Now, you want to talk about exhausting?
Yeah.
This couple right here, it
exhausting and hilarious at the same time.
But they train wreck.
Yes, they are a couple that I'm like, why did y'all get married for real?
They are the stereotypical ghetto couple that makes it, but don't ever change that they from the hood.
That's like my first note on here is you can take the person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the person
at all. Like Marcus obviously was a college football star, went pro. Had
2 years,
had an injury, as you know, tends to happen, and then his wife is a salon owner, has her own product line, doing good. He work in the salon as a barber, as a barber, but that ain't good enough for her.
But his money paid for her salon.
Yeah, and it's a nice salon. Now it needs some flow mats in there because that cement look like it's brutal on the legs, but yes. I was like, I'm not standing on the concrete.
Yeah. Even if I understood that they got married, I did not understand how they were still married.
Yes, because she was so emasculating.
I mean, yeah, if you ever want to look up what emasculation looks like, that is it.
That's textbook definition.
Yeah, she is a walking trauma response. Everything she do is from a place of trauma. You can tell there probably is some family home stuff, like childhood home stuff that she had to deal with growing up. You can tell that Marcus has cheated on her numerous times, to the point where now she cheating too.
Boom.
And then, it's like they work well together, but also Marcus is extremely passive. He is a passive man, not even passive aggressive. He's just passive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot be this fine. And
it was exhausting.
So I've got to collect my thoughts to figure out what part I want to talk about,
because they are so complicated.
And I told the ladies this before we recorded. I think the reason why they did such a good job in these roles is because they actually used to date in real life back in the day. So I think they just knew each other.
Well, because they played these parts very well.
They did.
And this is one of those things. So Psych 101, listen, where habituation comes into play. And habituation is like, okay, so let's say you in a room and you hear the clock going tick, 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 tick. But after a while, it just kind of fades to the background and you don't really hear it anymore. That's habituation.
Yeah.
And that's basically, he lives his life in that state now.
When they was eating breakfast.
Yeah, I was just
was like, what's wrong with your wife? He's like, it's Wednesday. What are you talking about?
And they was like, you don't heard this so much, you don't even notice it.
No.
Wow.
No.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all, when Marcus lies, he says, you know what I'm saying? At the end
I love that he has a telltale sign, though.
Yeah.
Because when in the second movie, when they was like, Sheila don't talk about me. No. And he was waiting on that,
You know what I'm saying part.
Yeah. He was just like, no. But yeah, he is the, like, a definition of being walked over. But on the flip side, there's also a strength in his silence too.
Yeah. You can tell he biting his tongue. It ain't like he don't know what's going on, because he do. He really do know what's going on. But maybe we don't have like the backstory like Dr. Strickland was saying, but maybe it's because he's continuously trying to atone for losing, you know, the deal, the contract, and cheating. And the fact that he's still cheating with his baby mama, and she hood too. So obviously that's what he like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Through and through.
Tear my nerves up.
They did.
They don't travel well together on train, by plane, caravan.
Nothing.
They don't.
No.
They don't communicate well. They don't do anything well. If this was a couple that I was seeing in therapy, I would have to have them as my last couple. Because if they were in the first one, they would have to cancel my whole appointment because they are exhausting.
Oh yeah, no first or middle of the day.
Yeah,
last
client,
and you might need 2 hours. Like you gonna get this 2 hour session because the first hour is just gonna be me trying to wrangle y'all in. And then the second hour is you finally listening to what in the world.
And it's mainly trying to bring Angela in because once she get going, you can't get her to stop.
Anxiety.
Right. You can't get her to stop. And she's not going to hear you.
Right.
No. And it's so sad because she actually be knowing what she be doing. Like Angela is probably the smartest one for real, but she just has poor skill set.
Yeah. And her deliverance is tacky. And so you can't hear. And her voice is annoying. When she start yelling, it is very annoying. So you can't hear what she's saying, even though she may be giving you some gems.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets lost in the sauce. Yeah. You got to be very mindful of how you present information. Because like you said, people just won't listen and it won't matter.
And when you're trying to communicate, especially when you're trying to communicate something that's something vulnerable and near and dear to you, you want the person to be able to hear you, because otherwise that's going to make you feel like you can't be vulnerable, but you didn't deliver it well.
Yeah.
And how do you expect a person to react after you've degraded them and put them down and talked about them and emasculated them? Again, like we said with Patricia and Gavin, that pressure cooker is going to let that steam off at some point. And also, like Sheila told Troy, if you keep accusing me of things, then you're going to put me in a headspace where I want to do something to go ahead and be like, well, you're already accusing me of it, so I might as well do the thing that you're accusing me of. So then you're creating, you know, by your behavior doing this, you end up creating the very problem that you're scared of. So then you feel justified because the problem now exists, but you're not paying attention to that. But the way you reacted to your spouse, again, you influenced a set of behaviors that ended up where they did.
Yeah. She couldn't stop herself.
Right. And it came from a place of mistrust and distrust. Remember, we were talking about infidelity. We were telling you how when there is some infidelity involved, how the person changed. And now you don't have the trust for the person, and anything that you do, it doesn't matter if you say you have on blue socks and it's like, no, you don't, you have on purple socks. Now you done lied to me, and now you done triggered me again.
And I bet when you was wearing blue socks with that like, wait, what?
Yeah, she always
like
took
what?
a hard left into crazy town.
Like, how did you make that connection? I was wearing green socks that day.
Yeah. And you can tell like Marcus is like the little brother of the group.
Yeah.
And they all dote on him. I'm just gonna be honest. It's like he almost like can't get right, but he can. But they be like, get your life together. But he ends up having a conversation kind of early in the first movie with Terry about, hey, I need a shot. And we kind of find out that he has slept with his baby mama. He has cheated on Angela, and now he has VD, as they were calling it, a venereal disease, which would be, it could be a couple of things actually, but he said he was burning, so we just gonna
I took that to mean it was either the clap. I don't know what they call the other one socially, what that was called, but the burn. Anyway,
it don't matter. But Terry's like, oh, overnight something. I had an office overnight. But Terry kind of tries to check him about, why you even allowing that to happen. He talks about how his wife is always treating him this way, and it just happened, and it probably did just happen because he's super passive, and his baby mama and his wife are the same person.
He's an opportunistic infidelitist.
Infidelitist. Yes. And yes. I agree with both of you ladies that he married the same woman.
He got a type.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
And he understands that. I think that's the thing. He fully is aware that he loves the brash, kind of out there, super over the top dramatic woman. Some people call that spice.
He liked the makeup sex. He says that several times in both movies.
Yes.
Now, I'm just gonna say this: Michael Jai White. I be forget. Okay, so for y'all who don't know who Michael Jai White is, he plays in a lot of martial arts movies because I believe he's a black belt, 10th degree black belt in something. I can't remember what it is. He also played in the movie Spawn as Spawn. Like, he's cold blooded, and so his body looks that way. But Angela was testing him, and he said, "Oh, I know what you want. Grab that girl leg." Her ankle.
He said, "Get over here
and put that hand. No, Marcus. No. Okay, Marcus." I said, "Don't tempt me with a good time." Shoot,
not a good time.
I love it.
It was so that part was cute. It really was.
It was.
They are something else.
They are.
I mean, while they're exhausting, they are entertaining to watch.
And you can see that they do love each other. It's just wrapped in a lot.
I think she's one of those people who is having a hard time forgiving, but he's also probably every time she gets there or try to get there, he does something else or something else comes out that makes her have to go back.
He has poor boundaries. It's like you have a porous boundaries individual, and that's somebody like we talked about that is a people pleaser and kind of does whatever anybody wants him to do, and then you have a rigid boundary person together who has built walls of protection all around them, which both of them are dysfunctional.
And he's on the loose end.
Avoidant and anxious types.
But what I did appreciate was when he finally, from the first film, when he stood up to Keesha, his baby mama, and Angela. And he was like, first of all, Keesha, you ain't going to talk to my wife like this. And you're not going to talk about my wife to my children.
About time,
Don't call me.
Did y'all notice that those kids didn't age?
Oh, his kids?
I think they was already in that weird spot. You know what I mean? Like
that's what we going with.
Yeah.
They can't get no older because they in that weird, like, we already hit our growth spurt. Right. Like they didn't cast it right.
Yeah. They didn't look like they aged.
Poor children.
It's supposed to have been 3 years.
Yeah. That's why I was like,
because they should have been teenagers.
Right. The time zone. Yeah. Again, that's the one thing I need movies to work on. If you're going to have a span of time, please let people know and be consistent. Please have your editors check to make sure that y'all are being consistent with the casting and the description of the time.
Yeah, because them growth spurts wasn't right.
But he checked both of them. And he got all up in Keesha face.
Yeah.
With that finger.
Yes.
Somebody put their finger in your face. They like, look, I don't care. We can choose violence today.
Yeah.
Because I'm letting you know. Don't call me no more. Don't talk about me. Don't talk about my wife. If it ain't got nothing to do with my children, shut up. And you.
That mess scared Angela. She didn't know how to deal with that. She liked it, but at the same time, it was like,
oh, I
done went too far. And she is somebody, because you can tell that there's some type of abuse there, that she's always going to push the limit. She needs you to prove to her that she is valuable to you.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because even when he walked away in that scene, and the way she kind of like almost cowered around, you know, the vehicle.
Yeah. I noticed that too. I was like, that's different.
Yeah, I mean, it was
stood up to her,
right, and it was almost like, and I know this is not going to sound the way that I mean it to come out, but it was almost like she became a woman in that moment. You know,
she
like,
could be soft because she wasn't wearing the pants no more.
Yeah, because she has very super masculine energy the entirety in pretty much every other scene, but in that moment she became feminine. Like it was.
All I know is her hair.
Always.
That
and
bob.
It had to be. She the stylist.
I know, but that hair was on it.
Yeah.
Her and Taraji can rock a bob, a swing bob.
Yeah. It was bomb.
Shout out to Tasha Smith and her twin that look just like her. You know,
they do.
They my booby people. If y'all didn't know that, that's the Equatorial Guinea. You know, when you track your ancestry, that's the only celebrity I know in that area.
Because I was like, I didn't know what you were talking about.
It's okay. It's okay.
But yeah, that hair was bomb. She was dressed nice too.
Yeah, she was.
But the other thing I was thinking, this happened twice in this movie. How dare you show up to somebody's job?
Oh my! She'd have got fought.
And in that manner, like you came in the door with your annoying screaming voice.
Is she cross-eyed? Are we talking about, which one are we talking about? Are we talking about Angela showing up, or are we talking about Keesha showing up? Because both of them did it.
Yeah. I think were you talking about Angela?
Angela.
Okay. Because I was talking about Keesha too.
No, I was talking about Angela. The way she showed up on that set. Ooh. And like they're filming. Yeah.
Yes.
Live. Oh my God. I mean.
That is so embarrassing.
She lucky he didn't get fined. Because typically he would have got fined by the
network.
The network and the, I can't think of what their acronym is, but the people, the politics people that make sure ain't nothing on TV that ain't supposed to be.
Oh, the FCC?
Thank you. The FCC. Because it was all kind of bleep, 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 bleep.
Yeah. I mean, I understand. Because I was like, I wrote in my notes, I said, is she borderline? I was like, maybe if she ain't got a diagnosis, but she got some features. You know, because that it's 0 to 100.
Yeah.
You know, there was no thinking at all.
Impulsive.
She took what that neighbor said and immediately believed it. And
which don't even make sense. You know what time he go on air. Like you really know his schedule at this point because he's now a celebrity. Oh, we forgot to tell y'all, he has a new job. He's a sportscaster. So he's high visibility now.
And you were able to outline, well, he drive 4.2 miles over here, and if it's 6.7 minutes out, but yet you believed the neighbor with no hesitation. None.
And you could have asked him.
And you took that information and ran. When I say ran with a storyline, you didn't just run with a storyline, you wrote one.
Yes, she created a whole bunch of things.
Whole novel. And then acted upon that. That was the kind of stuff that made me think, does she got some like borderline features in there?
Because she ran with that novel she put in her head.
And that fear of abandonment, like as much as you talk about him cheating and all this, but you are so afraid for him to leave you.
Yeah, because she'll soften up at the end when she proves that he didn't do anything or nothing like that. She'll soften up and say how much she love him and cook.
I'm so
for
sorry.
Him and yeah.
But then here go one little thing, boom.
My God.
That phone rang.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I got to look at them criteria a little bit closer, but you're definitely checking off some boxes there. But it was being like, I don't even know if there's a word above disrespectful. Like whatever that word is, that's what it was. You came to that man's job. You talked crazy to his coworkers. He was live on the air and then proceeded to have a conversation with him at work.
Out loud.
Then go back on the set to grab your purse and talk mess to the coworkers again.
Yeah, I think part of it has to do with the fact that she was at that point jealous too. That was doing the things that he now wanted to do. She felt like he was leaving her behind. You know, she was in a recession because of the salon, like all these things going on. But I'm like, girl, if you don't open your mouth and talk, you talk all the time anyway and be biting people's head off. You're going to have to communicate. Like, I'm struggling. Stuff has changed so drastically that I'm not handling it well. Mm-hmm. You don't handle it well anyway, but
right. And the thing, the other piece to that too is that she was one of those people who you couldn't make happy because she was upset at the fact that he was working for her and she was emasculating it. Now you mad that he working.
Mm-hmm. But she's like a child. You got to think she has stunted growth. Like wherever she was originally hurt is probably in a formative years because she responds behaviorally like a kid would. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, she is, you know, fight all the time. It's not fight or flight, it's fight. Yeah. And so she's always going to go that route because obviously somebody did not protect her the way she needed to be protected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's
definitely a trauma response.
Yeah, I say that from a place of, you know, I grew up in a household with somebody that was very protective and like, what you say? Oh, I thought you had said something. Like that's the automatic response. And it takes a long time for people that are like that to be able to trust their environment. And, you know, I always impress upon people in those situations, you know, you don't have to trust your environment. You got to learn to trust you again.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And once you trust you, it really don't matter what's happening around you because you know you got you.
Mm-hmm. And I typically tell my clients who have experienced a trauma to make sure they have an exit plan and make sure they have a safety plan because you are the one, like Dr. Wall was saying, that have to protect you. You can't have that expectation for everybody else.
Yeah.
But as long as you have a plan, you can protect yourself. Yeah.
And you don't have to come across biting people's head off, being harsh. When something happened to you, you don't have to like knock nobody's head off.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because why your reaction does not match the stimulus.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I just said hi. Why are you screaming?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, again, she goes 0 to 100.
Yeah.
You know, there is literally no... Okay, you didn't go 0, 50, 100, because even then, I mean, that's still a fast progression, but, you know, at least there was a 50, you know, like, do I want to do this?
Right.
Yeah. You know, but it was like.
It was a hot mess. I mean, it helped her, you know, be vigilant of everything that was going on in her friend group. It just didn't help in her marriage. You know, she was always the first one to notice something.
And that's what I also tell my clients too. You know, the symptoms that you have from, let's just say PTSD, the symptoms that you have from PTSD, it's not that you have to run from them. It's not that you have to be afraid of them. What you have to learn how to do is embrace them and allow them to work in your life. So if you are a hypervigilant person, that's okay. Be hypervigilant, but now how is it going to show up in your life in a healthy way?
Yeah. Right. Yep, we talk about that all the time. Oh, you're an overthinker? Okay. How are you using it to your advantage?
How you use your superpowers?
Yeah.
Y'all know I say my superpower being an introvert and an empath, but it could get toxic.
Oh yeah, I mean anything to an extreme.
Exactly.
Or left unchecked.
Yep.
And she was left unchecked in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, although she checked everybody else, nobody
checked her.
Except
for Mike.
Except for Mike.
Well, he didn't really check her either. They sparred, really. And
he
was never on her level.
He still checked her in an unhealthy way. Just like she did him.
Right. Nobody combated her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, I agree that he did it in a very unhealthy way because that was an adversarial relationship that they had. But nobody else. So it was Mike and then Marcus. You know, that's kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I would say Patty too, because she was the reeler in. You get what I'm saying? Like, she always softened her, but that's because of the amount of respect, really, that Angela had for her. Because if that had been anybody else, she wouldn't have listened to them.
Yeah, because she was really into that book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Taking it all out of context.
You said if I
trusted, right? I was like, what? What are you saying?
So since I don't trust him, I need to get the password. That's literally not what's in the book. Yeah. How you making up her book?
I told you she wrote her own novel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, when we say spiral, this is a great example of somebody that spirals on a consistent basis, and that is anxiety personified.
Cognitive distortions.
Yes.
Oh man, flying everywhere.
So when y'all be seeing, you know, the angry black woman, you like realize it's typically a lot of trauma that's bottled up in her. Not to give her no excuses, but there are reasons for why people do stuff.
That's true.
And then the other thing, one, she did not ever take account for her own behavior.
Nope.
Like she drank, and the way they're painting the pictures that she was an alcoholic.
Yep.
Like she drank.
Yep.
And your husband made it very clear he did not want you drinking anymore. Insert second movie.
She drinking.
And that accountability was not held against her when she was the one who gave him the disease.
Because they just kind of like
skated over that.
She's like, boom. Now, Walter, I'm not gay. No, I gave it to you. I've been cheating. I already got my shot. I was waiting on you.
And I was like, they didn't address that at all.
Well, she got choked. That's what ended up. She got choked out. And then Sheriff Troy had to come break him up. Because if you notice, like he stays next to Angela the whole time. Like after that.
He did. He was like, the way he turned over and looked at her and them hands was like, yeah, this is it. This is the day.
when she says, you're so evil. I was like,
because can you imagine the amount of gaslighting that he's experienced? You know, when you gave me an STD. Now, we was both out here cheating.
Right.
But the way you've painted the picture is very different. You've painted the picture like I was the initiator of all this problem in this most recent.
She cheated before him.
Yes.
Or in this instance.
I was like, Lord have mercy. I would have choked you out too.
Child, again, I don't know how they stayed married.
But it worked. What? You know, this is the type of like yin and yang. He was just passive enough, just, I don't know if remorseful is the word I want to use, but just sorrowful enough for her level of intensity.
And insecurities.
Both ways.
I mean, they fit together. I mean, you see that kind of thing all the time. They really do. It just ain't what we would be able to handle.
Say it all look toxic.
Codependency.
Yes.
I mean, they are like, open the dictionary. There you go. You know, they are really dependent upon each other emotionally in some extremely unhealthy ways. But he fine though. Man. Okay. Well, any wrap up thoughts or final thoughts that you guys want to kind of put out there about the movie?
The only thing I would say is I did appreciate that there was a lot of debriefing in the girl group, a lot of debriefing in the man group. I just wish that there wouldn't have been so much talk of intimate details. There needed to be some boundaries put, because there's no reason why Mike should have had all the information. Of course, we know Sheila just says everything, but you know, I feel like pretty much everybody in the friend group knew all of these things about everybody, but they weren't sharing it. They weren't giving away their friends' secrets.
Yeah, I had said that a lot. I was like, ooh, this group talks a lot. I was like, man, I mean, there's one thing about sharing with, you know, your friends and telling about, you know, certain things, but I was like, they know
stuff.
Everything.
Yeah.
But then the person that needs to know
don't know.
Very interesting dynamics. But overall, how would you, so if we're going to rate these as a collective, since they go together, how would you rate the films?
I would say, oh wait, are we doing numbers?
I think that's what we did last time, wasn't it?
Okay. I would say I would give it I would say 8 or 9, because I think they did a good job with depicting different types of relationships in a realistic way. Some of them were over exaggerated, I think, just for show, or for movies. But I think it gave a good depiction on unhealthy discussion, healthy husbands who were trying to bring the wives on their, So I think it was just a wide scale of how marriages can look.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I was thinking if we're out of a 10 scale, I'm assuming, yes? Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, I also agree. I would give it at least an 8, maybe like an 8.5. For many of the same reasons. I think it definitely, they had a wide variety. I also think it was sensationalized in some ways, but I did appreciate that they showed long-term relationships.
Yes.
These weren't people that had only been together a year or 2 years. These people have been over a decade. I liked how they showed how people can maintain friendships over an extended period of time. And that even though you change as you become an adult, if you do the work and you want to invest in those relationships, you can continue to maintain them. And I also appreciated how they showed how you can leave. It may take you a long time to get there, but if there is a breaking point, that you have the ability to leave and you can live prosperously on the other side.
So, yeah. I mean, I agree. There isn't really anything I can think of to add to that. So I probably give like 8.5 as well. I just appreciate, and I know a lot of people don't like Tyler Perry films or plays, but I always appreciate that he gives us examples of things. You may not agree with the acting, or you may not agree with the hairpiece or the makeup, or you can see the mic or whatever. I don't really care about all that. What I care about is the fact that somebody that is in our community and our culture is giving us examples of things that a lot of other people don't.
Yeah. He tells real stories.
Yeah. And so however they end up coming off to other people, I appreciate them. And I appreciate the fact that he's talking about some of the hard stuff, the dysfunction. He's talking about, child mortality. He's talking about abuse. He's talking about good men, good women, bad women.
And what it looks like when a person snaps.
Yeah. You're seeing all these different things. And really, who else is doing that? Nobody right now.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. So as usual, guys, y'all let us know what y'all thought in the comments. Let us also know what you think about this format of us doing the breakdown, since it wasn't scene for scene. Now we know this was 2 movies, so this is a little bit different than our typical. But let us know if you like this format, and we may test it out on a future MMB. To see if this works better, or if you like the way we've been doing it, or if you want some combination of the two. We want your feedback, so just let us know.
Must be this volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at The Recycled Podcast.
If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.